I didn't really want to get a G-Shock for the longest time anyway. Honestly, they seemed like they were mostly big, ugly watches that were way overkill for anything I would ever need. And frankly, it was a little bit intimidating looking at the huge variety of different models that were out there. I had no idea where to even begin. But I knew I had to check them out, and then one day I saw this. And this was not like any other G-Shock I had seen or expected, and it's pretty cool. Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome back to Just the Watch, and today we're going to be taking a look at the CasiOak. The CasiOak it's kind of been called by a lot of people now, but this is officially that we're looking at the Casio G-Shock GA-2110. So the GA-2110 came out last year in a couple of different colorways. This year they released 3 new colorways, 2 of which are in the 2110 series. So we have this nice bright orange or bright yellow one, which I picked up, and then there's also a green one. Availability is kind of all over the place at this point still. I believe in the US only the green one has been released by Casio officially. In Asia and Europe I think you can get both the green and the yellow one, and then I guess there's a camo version too that just came out. So yeah, a little bit scattered there. But today I want to take a look at this one kind of from the perspective of someone who's sort of new to the G-Shock line, because this is my first G-Shock, and I did a lot of research trying to figure out where to start, and I was this close to pulling the trigger on a DW5600, and then I saw this one and just had to pick it up. So I'm going to be giving this kind of review from the perspective of sort of a first-time G-Shock owner, but we'll be going over all the features and give you some good clean shots of it as well. So if you're really into G-Shocks but you haven't had a chance to check out the GA-2100 or the 2110s yet, this video will probably be for you. But if you've never bought a G-Shock or considered a G-Shock, maybe this video will be especially for you, because that's the perspective that I'm coming from. I want to evaluate this G-Shock on 3 metrics. So I want to talk about its comfort, its style, and its functionality. In a lot of ways, the G-Shock GA-2100 series might not seem as feature-rich as some of the other G-Shocks that have been out there. You're getting your kind of basic G-Shock functions: 200 meters of water resistance, stopwatch, countdown timer, 5 alarms, world time, and this one is an analog digital model, which is, you know, fairly common as well. But you're not getting solar, you're not getting the atomic syncing where it sets the time automatically, or a lot of the more advanced features that you'll find on some of the other G-Shocks out there. But what is innovative about this one is, I think, the style and the thinness of it. So this is, I believe, the thinnest G-Shock that they've ever made. I think it's only about 12 millimeters thick, and that's due to at least one technological innovation. Is they've come up with this carbon core guard that's like some kind of carbon composite that they've embedded into the case that allows them to make the case lighter and thinner, and yet still have that G-Shock toughness, because, as you guys know, the G-Shock is meant to be able to handle anything, and that was one of the reasons I really wanted to pick one of these up, is I wanted to see how tough it was. And when I heard that the G-Shock could handle anything, my first thought was, this is a watch I need to get for when I'm sitting around the house watching TV. So let's talk about how it wears and the comfort of the G-Shock first, because I think that'll be the quickest one. It wears extremely well, but because of the way that the watch sits on the wrist and the way that the band is shaped, it just conforms to the wrist really well. The band, I think, helps out a lot with that. On this one, you're getting a really steep drop on the sides, so it immediately wraps around your wrist pretty quickly. The band itself is made out of a kind of really soft resin material. It's kind of really pleasing to the touch. You're getting some nice bumps on the bottom of it that help with airflow and reducing sweat underneath. So they've really thought it through on making these bands. Another interesting thing on this one is that it has quick release spring bars on the strap, so you can take the strap off fairly easily. The lug width is something of a custom lug width. I'm not sure how many other G-Shocks have this, like if you can swap bands around. Maybe if anybody knows in the comments, let me know. I'm sure you can swap bands within the GA-2110 series line pretty easily. The watch also feels really light, so it's like super comfortable on the wrist. Like I almost forget that I'm wearing it. I mean, obviously nobody else is going to forget that you're wearing it because it's a big, bright yellow G-Shock, and just overall it's just a really comfortable watch. So that's definitely one of the big pluses for this one. But I think the biggest thing that this watch has going for it, and one of the reasons why it is so popular, is its style. And for me, again, as someone who's new to the G-Shock line, I think this is kind of like a really cool, accessible style. It's not like one of those giant G-Shocks that's like screams for attention. Well, maybe this one does because it's bright yellow. But just the overall design is actually fairly simple. You get a really cool case shape, so it's an octagonal case shape with 8 sides, which is why people are comparing it to the Royal Oak. It's not super huge, and everything about it is pretty cool. Particularly on this one, on the GA-2110 series, I think the reason why this one has a different model number is because they have a contrasting bezel. So on all of the regular 2100 series line, the bezel is the same color as the case and strap, and in this case you're getting a black bezel, in my case yellow, but they have a green one as well. And I like that. I think it really looks cool. It adds a little bit of extra flair to it. Let's go ahead and get a closer look at the dial. So overall, the style, I think you can see, is a very modern, clean look. Not like a ton of stuff going on the dial. You're getting your nice markers all the way around for your 12-hour markers. And then this one has a sub-dial at 9 o'clock that gives you the day, which is kind of a cool little feature. For me, that's primarily for looks. I don't ever forget what day of the week it is. And I haven't actually really even paid much attention to this dial at all, but it does make the watch look a little bit more interesting. Dial might look a little bit sparse without that. And then over here between like 6 and 3, you've got your digital readout, which is fairly small. That's one thing that I kind of wish that was a little bit bigger, but it does give you decent enough contrast. It blends in with the, it's a negative display, so it blends in with the dial itself, and yeah, it just gives it, again, a really sleek look. But this one, you do get a pretty good amount of legibility on there with the markers in gray with the little yellow dots around the rim as well. But the style is just a great looking G-Shock. I love the geometry here with the 8-sided case, and then this bezel, especially now that it's contrasting with the yellow. You know, you can see that shape a lot more clearly, and I just think that adds a really cool look to see the bezel in a different color there. And yeah, I mean, the yellow is very bright and loud and maybe a little bit obnoxious at times, but you know, I think it's really cool for kind of a beater watch or a tool watch like this. The sorts of things that I'll be wearing it with, you know, I think it just works perfectly fine. And yeah, I really like the look of it. I think that's one of the big selling points that this one has, and why so many people have kind of gravitated towards it. All right, finally, let's wrap it up by talking about the functionality that they packed into this one. So functionality, like I mentioned in the intro, this is a fairly basic model for G-Shocks as far as G-Shocks are concerned, but you are getting a lot packed into here. So in addition to the analog readout on the digital module, they're adding a time feature with a perpetual calendar built in there. You're getting world time, so you can track multiple time zones, a stopwatch, a timer, 5 alarms, and an LED backlight. So lots of functionality built in there, which is great. Obviously, this being a G-Shock, one of the functionality you got to mention is the shock resistance that this has. I believe these are rated for taking up to a 10-meter drop, which is like dropping it off of a house. And so this one features a mineral crystal, which, you know, it will get scratched up, but mineral is supposed to be more shatter resistant than sapphire, which is, you know, so if you're looking for something actually tough and that can take a knock, mineral is probably a better case than sapphire there. And honestly, if your concern is getting your G-Shock scratched up, you probably shouldn't be getting a G-Shock in the first place. There's other watches that you could get. This one having a resin case is, that's going to pick up scratches and scuffs as well. But it's a G-Shock. It's supposed to. I found the contrast on the digital module pretty legible. I didn't have any problem reading it. Some lighting situations it can be a little bit difficult. But one thing that was kind of a problem is that because the digital module is so small, it is sort of tiny text, so it's hard to read, but then also the hands on it oftentimes will be swinging around over on top of the module, making it really difficult to read. There is a trick to kind of remedy that. If you hold down the light and mode button at the same time, the hands will move out of the way for you, and it takes a couple seconds to do that, but it's kind of cool to see them automatically sort of move out of the way, and then the next time you hit a mode button and they're going to swing back into their proper place. So that kind of works around it, but obviously you're not getting as much functionality as you get with like a pure digital watch with a nice big digital display, but the analog function just looks cooler, and I think it makes it a better choice for like an everyday watch because it sort of it gives you a little bit of extra style, and you're not going for pure functionality on this. I think that's sort of what a G-Shock is meant to be, right? Is meant to be the ultimate tool watch. This sort of takes it down a small notch by adding some extra style points with the analog digital display and the cool case shape and all that, but still retaining some a lot of the functionality that you'd find in most G-Shocks. So it's a good compromise one. Also helping the legibility is that backlight. So that's an LED light that illuminates the digital display, and it also shines bright enough to view the analog segments of the watch as well, which is cool. And then additionally, they included lume on the hands. So not on the markers, only on the hands you're getting lume, but the lume was surprisingly bright. It was impressive enough that I went ahead and ran it up against a lume test, and let me show you how it fared. So I'm going to put this up against the watches in my collection that have the best lume. So we have the Orient Star Sports Outdoor, the SWC Diver, Citizen Nighthawk, and then I'm currently testing the Gin Clear prototype from Second Hour Watches, so I'll put that one there as well. And then finally we've got the CasiOak on the far right, and you can see that it holds up really well. Again, these are the best lumed watches in my collection. This is a 1 hour time lapse. All of them are clearly visible at the end, but let's go ahead and rank these up and see which one won the contest. So again, you can see the Citizen Nighthawk comes out first place with the brightest handset, probably the brightest handset in my collection, but the CasiOak is about half as bright as that, which is really good, even besting out the SWC Diver's handset. So it's kind of cool that it has both lume and an active backlight. It's great that it has both of those features. You could argue that the lume is unnecessary given that there is an active backlight in there, but it's actually fairly functional. Being able to check the time at a glance without having to fumble around in the dark for buttons is actually pretty cool. And then if it has gone long enough to where the lume's worn off, you can still hit the button fairly easily. Okay, so pros and cons for the CasiOak. Pros, I just love the way it looks. I think it looks cool, and it's not like I think a lot of the G-Shocks, they either look like a pure tool watch where that thing is meant for a specific purpose and it has 0 style points, which kind of gives it some style points, or it has like a really retro look, like most of the G-Shocks I've seen. Those are sort of the impressions that I get, or there are those like really blingy ones, and none of those really appealed to me. But this one is just, I think, like a perfect blend of form and function, and it just looks really sleek, it looks really modern, it looks really cool. And yeah, I love the color. I love the yellow one. I've kind of always, I like those bright colors, and for having a G-Shock like this, where this is going to be, my beater watch, my beach watch, just like a fun daily watch, it actually works with a pretty wide variety of outfits and things. You can kind of get away with it. It's definitely kind of like an accent. If you're trying to match it with an outfit, it's going to stand out. But people are used to seeing G-Shocks, because they're so common, and they'll just recognize that, oh, that's a cool G-Shock. Is probably what most people would think. So I think that's kind of a cool touch to it. I love the comfort of it. It's really comfortable. It's really easy to wear, and I love having that functionality. Again, I think this is just a great blend of form and function and style that the G-Shock line offers. So it's really cool to see them do this, and I can see why this one is getting so popular. So cons on the CasiOak, that digital display is, again, very small, and it is kind of annoying having the hands get in the way. That does reduce some of the functionality. So if you are looking for like a pure functional tool watch, probably with the analog digital models are not what you're looking for. You probably want one of the pure digital ones and just go for that. But if you want some style, then this is a good compromise. Also, the buttons are, you know, they're not too hard to press, but they are small, they are recessed, and so they are a little bit difficult to get to. But again, I think that's part of what you want in a G-Shock. You know, it makes it so that the buttons are not going to get hit accidentally, and it kind of protects the module inside a little bit more too, I think, as well. So that wasn't ever much of a problem for me, but it's something to note. Other than those two minor things, if you're looking for a G-Shock and you can find one of these at a good price, I say go for it. I think it's a great watch, and it's definitely got me interested in trying out some more G-Shocks. So that's going to wrap up today's video. Before we go, I do want to mention one thing. Recently, I was on the Average Joe watch review channel. He invited me to be a guest on his show and did an interview. So definitely, if you guys are interested, go check that one out. We were talking a little bit about Snoopy and why he's so popular on watches. So it was a fun segment to get to go and do an interview with him, and definitely give his channel a look. And I'll leave a link to that video as well so you guys can check that out. But that will wrap up the video for today. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of the CasiOak, and if you have any alternatives or recommendations for other G-Shocks to take a look at, drop me a comment down below. But that will do it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.